So we did a long-range facility study with an architectural firm and determined the needs for every building in the school district. And frankly, that totaled a lot more than $63 million. In fact, it was around $90 million. But one thing was very important to us in thinking about having a new bond issue, and that was that we didn't want it to raise any new taxes for our patrons in Parkrose. So we went through a process with community members, with staff, with the school board, and did some events where we put the facility projects around the room and asked people to weigh in on what were the most important projects to them. And we winnowed that $90 million down to about $63 million, which are the projects we have today in the May 17, 2011 bond.
That's a big gap that we're suffering right now. We got all those new touches and they work great, but one of the issues is the wireless piece. Kids want to do, the new touches have the video capability. They want to do the video FaceTime. Well, you can't do that without wireless. Yeah. The trouble is that we're oftentimes waiting for just being creative with funds and not having, our technology budget right now is like $3,000. So we just have to be really, really creative with how you budget in order to get the dollars you need to have just even a regular cycle of replacing machines and so forth. Right now, looking at investing money in wireless ports, well, every port you buy, it's $400 to $600. It's the setup of it. Whereas if the bond were to pass and we had that wireless accessibility in each of the rooms, that would be a huge boost. And it wouldn't be money that I would have to spend out of our building budget to pay for, because I think it's necessary. And I'm not going to wait for the bond to pass. I can't. We're not able to be progressive, which as a school district that wants their kids to achieve, I don't think it's just about the reading and math and writing scores. I think it's about these progressive types of things that are, in my eyes, just as important. So.
Well, in terms of technology upgrades, what would be really helpful is to have the whole building wireless so that teachers and students can move about with laptops and iTouches and iPads, which we're using all the time now, and be able to log on and do their work. If there were additional teaching spaces where adults could bring groups of kids to go do projects and things like that and know that they had the internet or the resources that go with curriculums we're using in the classroom, that they were accessible, it would make all the difference. Plus, with all of our all the screening that we do, with all the different testing and all the assessment pieces that we have in place, being able to take small groups of kids and go and do those kinds of things would really streamline and make things work more efficiently.
Especially in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, I have a lot of technology savvy teachers who get it. So they're able to go out and get things on the internet and project it for the students. But to get technology into kids' hands is what Wi-Fi would do for us.
As you can see, we have a projector up here and a screen up here. But in order for it to work, the document camera and the computer have to be back here. So if I'm up here doing a presentation, which I do all the time and teachers do all the time, they bring their classes in here. You can be up here and do the presentation, but if you want to model any type of work using the doc camera or show students work, or if you need to switch programs on the computer, you have to come all the way to the back of the library. Another problem with it is we really want to go Wi-Fi. We're getting more and more computers in our buildings. We're getting them into the hands of kids. And because of the walls, our library can be Wi-Fi, but as soon as you walk across the hall, the other classrooms can't. So it's really restrictive and it's really expensive to get some of this technology in our building and where we want it.
Right now, in this building, because of the infrastructure, technology is something that's laid on top of what we regularly do. It isn't just integrated every day into English class, math class, social studies class, because it's not integrated seamlessly into the classroom. to do a research project on the computers, you have to sign up for computer time, you have to go to the computer lab, you have to hope everything's working okay in the computer lab, and then you've got 2 days and you got to get back to your room because somebody else needs to be in the computer lab. So it's this whole kind of additional added on component to teaching, which chews up teacher time, it chews up kid time, and it makes it artificial. It just is an artificial situation when we do technology instead of doing English, doing social studies, doing math, doing science, using all the tools that ought to be available to kids in 2011.
This is the primary place where obviously kids will come to eat. There are some schools in the district that have breakfast in the classroom, but this is such an ideal space. Families come in here, kids come in here. But just a few weeks ago, the first graders did their geography presentation in this room because it's not too big, it's not too grand, but we have assemblies in the gym. So the custodians in the other elementaries have to tear down tables in order for folks to have PE. And this year our teachers are teaching PE, so it's really important that we have as many time slots as possible to get the kids in for physical education.
Only having one space to teach PE, art, after-school activities, all the eating activities that they do, it's just not enough space. That's the other thing, is that when it's like last week when we had that really bad ice and everything, we had to have indoor recess as well. So then you got to figure out how to squeeze that in. And again, if you had 2 spaces so that you could have small groups or for meetings, we don't have any place to hold meetings.
So having small group spaces to work with kids who have already had the curriculum taught to them but are struggling with it or don't really know how to interact with that curriculum, for them to have a small group and a teacher who works with them or an educational assistant allows for us to have more time to meet kids' needs. So that's how we see it. For having the additional gym space, it just allows us to have an additional space so I can double book PE and Playworks and even indoor recess, which is a challenge in the Oregon weather.
So we can't use this space between 11 and probably about 1:30, almost 1:15 to 1:30, because you have to have, number one, a custodian to come in and set up for lunch, and then a custodian to come in and clean the floor, put the tables back down after lunch. So the space we're not able to use it for kids, and we can't even have a classroom who wants to come in and practice a play. Or we can't have PE in here. So the multi-purpose room would allow us to use that space when other classrooms were at lunch or for a music performance or whatever it may be. It gives us dual usage.
And I'm bringing you here because heating is quite old and the distribution of heat's really inconsistent. So one classroom can be 80 degrees and the other classroom can be 55 degrees, literally that much of a difference. So the boiler room is, it's natural gas now, but you can see these boilers are quite old. The biggest problem with this bathroom is it smells like your old bathroom when you were in school, and it's still, you just can't get rid of the smell no matter how much you scrub the bathroom.
The only ventilation in here is, like I said, it's just that passive ventilation. If you were to go up in the attic, you could just see it's just venting. There's no fans attached.
So this room here used to be used as an educational space. We can't use this room anymore because it has no egress for exiting the building. So students can't be in this room for any type of educational purpose. And you can see it's a fairly good sized room. This could be used as a conference room with parents and kids and so forth. And so we can't use it to its max capacity. So I would use it for educational purposes if I could. It's just one more space. What happened a couple of years ago is we had a steam pipe burst from the heating system. Well, it had burst and we didn't know it for a really long time until we really smelled a musty smell inside room 1. And so our maintenance guys went in and found out, and they literally had to go in and do massive repairs.
So these would all be asbestos tile. this is actually replaced tile. This is vinyl tile here. This would be the asbestos tile, but we've already replaced this once and it's settling more and cracking in the replaced sections. Because the vinyl tile is great as far as keeping clean, and you look at the floor in the middle school, it looks great. When it's done, it's really nice, but it's on a concrete base, so it's real stable. This, you'd have to come in and overlay this floor, take this floor off and overlay it with a stable subfloor, and then put your vinyl back in. And when you wax it and buff it, you're in pretty good shape. So
it's like when we're able to have our buildings look really top quality, I think it not only says something about, you know, the school, but I think just, I would, if I were a parent, I would just have that sense of like, yeah, things have to be going pretty well here for the things to look this way. And I think about that all the time. It's my big concern about some of these old things that are breaking down as I walk in the building each day.
you know, for the most part, very nice building, well-kept building. The only thing with Russell is you have a lot of window. I mean, this whole front section of the building is all glass, all single pane glass. So an upgrade here would certainly be nice to have more energy efficient windows.
Kids can't take their coats off all day when it gets cold, and we have teachers teaching in their jackets, and you know, that's not ideal.
I think one of our biggest concerns here at Sacramento, of course, is where the location of the office is, and it's always about safety for us. So that if you see here that there's no way for anyone to know that this is actually where the entrance of our office is. We have this breezeway here and another building over here. Let me show you how this works. So as people come in, they often, if they have a child that's out in one of these buildings, out this way or on the side here, they often don't check into the building. And we need people to check into the building as well as kids. So when kids are late, they don't often come in here and head down to their classroom, or they will head down to their classroom before they come into the office. So it's really about safety and security. We just can't see anybody who's coming down this way. Another issue for us, of course, is we don't have hallways. And as little kids come out, they can go straight out this way. We have a kindergarten classroom here, and to have that secure, we need a hallway that comes this way so that kids don't head out to the parking lot or to where the street is. And back here we have a portable that I think is more than 20 years old. We have issues with the building leaking sometimes, especially in the back. Sometimes these rooms get up over 80, 90 degrees. And you can imagine if you're a little child trying to learn math or reading, it's very difficult to concentrate when the room is so hot.
First thing every morning, we have about 800 kids walking through these 4 double doors. These hallways were designed for about probably 500 students, and we're at over 800 students. So we can't do anything about that. We teach hallway expectations, the students are on their best behaviors, teachers are out in the hall, but the fact is they're completely overcrowded. This building has 2 pod areas, which is actually ideal if you had 2 grade levels. In the pod areas, we can house 6 core teachers, and students only have to go from their social studies class to their math class, to their language arts class. So they can transition right in here. If you had 3 pod type areas in your building, students would be able to go back and forth with minimal transition. Teachers are able to communicate. All the teachers are out in the hall. There's great supervision. That's ideal. Unfortunately, because this school was only designed for 2 grade levels, with 3, there's no way to make that happen.
So this was really designed as, I guess, an auditorium type room, you know, for lecturing. But the problem is, you know, you've got your carpeting issues with this room. And then the way this floor is designed, there is no ADA accessibility in this room with this ramp, and there are no chairs that you could actually use for that. But the biggest problem that we have in here is the fact that these are to the point where they're failing, and we can't replace those without, it's like probably $200 per stand to replace them, to get the angles right. So basically the back 2 rows are gone and have replaced ones up front, but now we're getting to the point where, you know, how far do you bring this forward to still get a class in here. So every class, basically every classroom in the 100 and 200 wing have a bank of windows like that on their outside wall. And they're all single pane windows, so there's real no insulation value in this. Some of the windows in some of the rooms have been replaced years ago with plexiglass, which probably was okay at that time, wouldn't come up to code today just for fire reasons. But there's really no insulated value to the windows, and so we lose a lot of heat. And then of course in the summer it's really hot and there's no way to control that. So down here we have a steam leak in one of the steam pipes. Like I said, the fittings on that piece where it's coming up out of there will be an asbestos fitting, so we'll have to have that abated before we can address the problem. So yeah, this is kind of the issue that we have. The pipes are corroding and rusting underneath the insulation when you get a leak like that, and then it just eats it away at the pipe until you basically have nothing left. But these are plumbing issues that we have not just here in the middle school, but in all the schools that were built in the 60s, early 60s. This is all caused by the drain. There's a drain kind of like right in the middle of this, backing up to the point where we probably had 700 or 800 gallons of water sitting on top of the roof. And then it backed up over the flashing and got into this roof.
Our students had to walk around through the cafeteria, back out those doors because this hallway was completely blocked off.
These aisles, of course, these tiles in the hall are all vinyl asbestos tile. Most of them are, you can see we've replaced sections where they get real cracked. We have to keep them in good condition, but so you have some here that are cracking. They're still intact, but once they start getting to the point where they're loose, we have to take them up and replace them with a vinyl tile. So
we cannot legally fit our entire student body in here. So any type of like school play, school-wide assembly, we cannot have a school-wide assembly. It is impossible. It's illegal for us to do. We cannot fit our entire student body in here without exceeding the capacity limits. This is our main gym. And like I said, we have 3 grade levels. We have right now 4 basketball teams who need a place to practice, 2 7th grade girls and 2 8th grade girls. We have to split our seasons so that our 4 7th and 8th grade boys basketball teams have room to practice at that time. So our seasons are extra short because of that. On rainy day recess, we have no place for our students. So what we do is make the best of the situation. We bring them into the small gym. On any given day in Oregon in the winter, you're going to have a group of 150 kids coming inside because there is no other place for them.
the other issue that we really have here, let's see if we can find one this morning, is the smoke detectors. That piece of the fire alarm system here is getting to the point where we'll have anywhere from 5 to 40 smoke detectors showing trouble in the panel with being dirty. This one, that red light staying on means it's in trouble.
Okay.
And it's probably just dirty.
Right.
But they're getting to the point where you can only clean them so many times and then you have to replace them. Well, they're obsolete. You can't replace them, so what we have to do is we have to probably get new bases and smoke detectors.
How much does a
and
project
readdress
like that,
them.
would that cost?
To replace that system, I think it's going to be around $50,000. Most of the panels in the school are of this vintage, and these, if one of these breakers goes out, the only way to replace it is to go to a place that has recycled, refurbished, or recertified breakers. So, 1960s, state of the art then. For most people, they drive by and look at this building, or they walk through the building and they see a well-kept building, one that looks nice and a pretty good, decent facility for our school. But what they don't see is the deeper stuff. So there's a lot of issues here. While we keep them in check and keep correcting the issues, they're deeper than what most people see.
If we were able to make the building to fit our needs instead of our needs fitting the building, I don't know, it's not even imaginable. It's so exciting what our kids would do, what our teachers would do, I don't know. It'd be exceptional, I think.